All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Um, I know this was kind of a sudden scheduled meeting, so I appreciate you taking the time, but there are a lot of happenings that we need to chat about, things that basically requirements that we are being held to in short order in the next few weeks, really. So that's what this meeting is about. So here's our agenda for our meeting today. We're going to talk about some new safety requirements, updates to our processes regarding safety, and a policy that has been updated to align with that. Meals and breaks and new requirements around that. Phone updates and how those are going to work moving forward. And the eye care system is being updated and will look different. So before we get started, I just want to pause to recognize that change can be really hard. And this meeting is not the most riveting of meetings that we have ever had. So just to put it out there to get us started. This meeting also just includes requirements that we are being held accountable to and that we have to implement. So these are changes we're going to make together. And just like any change or challenge, we're going to navigate it as a team and make adjustments as possible and as we're able to do so. So the first thing we're going to talk about today are some new requirements related to safety. And the intent of these requirements is to prevent workplace violence. For nurses and social services team members on the line, this should not completely be new because we chatted about the premise of this and did some problem solving around this in our March RN and social services meetings. But now we do have a defined process and policy based off of feedback from multiple team members and disciplines that we need to put into practice. And so where is all this coming from? So there is a Senate bill. If you're interested, can't sleep at night, it's Senate Bill 537, if you want to look it up. And this Senate bill outlines legislation that essentially says that healthcare entities, and specifically hospice in various ways, as we'll talk about, need to implement policies and procedures related to workplace violence and preventing workplace violence. So the intention of this is amazing and excellent because obviously our goal, all of our goal is that we're staying safe in the workplace. And as you're providing all the wonderful care and services that you do, whether you work here in the office or you're in the field taking care of patients in their home setting. So this legislation, there's several components of it. They're listed here on the slide, and we're going to talk in more detail about how we're implementing and adhering to these requirements, okay? So part of that includes that we're identifying and assessing possible risks that you may encounter in the home setting. There's new requirements for annual workplace training that we'll talk about, along with quarterly safety assessments that are going to be part of our safety process moving forward. And there's also factors of this where we just want to make sure that you know how to access information in the electronic medical record to identify patients correctly, that you know all the resources that you have at hand to reach out for assistance or for safety check-ins. And what's very new as part of this process is we have to implement what's called a flagging system for flags in the electronic medical record, but also visually at the patient's residence when we've identified that there's a safety risk. So let's start out. The first piece of this, there are new requirements for our intake assessments and screening. So before a patient admits onto hospice, this the Senate bill and the Oregon Health Authority requirements now include certain aspects regarding safety. So what's new is that we specifically have to assess if there's basically been any history of violence that we can ascertain that has happened where the patient is going to be receiving care from us, so in their home setting. So including physical violence, harassment, assault, homicide, etc. Along with that, assessing that they have pets, they're willing to secure their pets at anytime if that's requested by any of you or that's needed. If there's any pest infestations in the home that we need to be made aware of for your knowledge in order to keep you safe. And we've been doing this for a long time, assessing if there's weapons in the home, but what's new is we have to specifically see, are they willing to secure their weapons during our home visits? Okay. And then finally, for any patient that's discharging from the hospital, we have to check in with the hospital team to see, are they aware of any history of violence that the patient has had in the last 12 months? So hopefully you've seen this, because this is already implemented. Our amazing HCC and intake team, they've been doing this for a bit now. So where do you find this information? There's a few places. The first place is you should be seeing this dot phrase in the directions box in Remote Client that outlines all the elements of the safety assessments and screening that our HCC and intake team are doing before that admission visit. Okay, so part of this Senate bill and the requirements is that you have to have access to this information. And this is how you have access to it. You can look in two places. So the directions box, as pictured here on the right-hand side of your screen. And also, if you want the very detailed wording, same information, just more words, you can also go to the referral note that the HCC and intake team put in Epic. And I'm going to show you a screenshot here in a moment for those that may not be as familiar for how to find that. Just going to pause here for a moment to reinforce that really the expectation, and this hopefully shouldn't be new for any of you, is before you contact a patient family caregiver, and especially in any home setting, home or facility, you should be reviewing the directions box because something may have changed, safety related or otherwise, that you need to be aware of. For those that may not be as familiar, so our HCC and intake team, they put in what's called a referral note. In order to find this, you would go to Chart Review in Remote Client. At the top, you can click on Notes, and then you're looking for documentation from our HCC and intake team. And when you open the referral note, part of the section is the safety screening assessment that takes place. It's the same information that you see in the directions box, just more words. Okay? So those are the two places that you can get the information from the intake assessment, which is now a requirement. Just going to pause for a moment. Any questions so far? Okay, and please do stop Christiana or I at any time. If you have questions, let us know.
You can put them in the chat too. We're monitoring the chat.
Yeah. Now, because this dot phrase is newish, what we do also need to do is make sure that all of our charts are consistent. So what that does mean is we have to ask IDG team now and to look in the directions box for each of your patients. And if they don't have this dot phrase that you're seeing on your screen, which is .hh safety, we need to add that and fill that out so it's very clear and consistent where you find this information for all of our patients. So remote client users, sync your smart phrases so that you have the .hh safety phrase. Lori.
So if it says there's a history of violence, still going in?
So yes, unless there's something notated in the directions box saying no home visits at this time, which is rare, but it does happen.
Okay.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go along, as far as if there's an alert or flag on the patient's chart that you should be aware of.
Because I'm just wondering, because I know sometimes the staff are making two-person visits, right?
Yep.
And with the volunteers, they're not going in as two people. So, I mean, I feel like the staff are going to need to not make referrals on people that have stuff like that, right?
That's a great point, Lori. I think, yes, unless they could go with one of our staff members for their volunteer visit, then it would be a no-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to
which-
stay for 4 hours. So,
Correct. Correct. So,
okay.
To your point, to Lori's point, everybody, the directions box should also outline elements of our safety plan. So if there is some type of safety situation where we're doing joint visits, that should be clearly outlined here as well, with any instructions, any nuances to what we're doing for that person, which we will talk more about as we continue in this presentation. So part of the safety requirements, this dog's got me. That picture of that dog looks like one of my dogs, is we have to offer annual safety training. So technically, the requirement is not that you take the training, but that we let you know that training is available. But we're going to one up that, and we're going to make it part of our annual education. Is we're asking all of you to take some safety trainings to help make sure that you have the tools needed to stay safe in doing your work. Okay. So the trainings, what's required is that the training includes recognizing hazards that you would commonly find within your workday, and that you would know how to manage such hazards as they are becoming present. So the requirements in Senate bill essentially say that the annual training has to be in alignment and have the same components as a training offered by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. So guess what? We're just going to have you do that training because it meets the requirements that are being asked of us. Now, what I'll say to that is our goal really is over time to perfect our training and to focus our training on the areas that you feel like you want more support and education. So for example, we had a teammate in our most recent RN and social services meeting that said, it would be great to get training on what to do if a patient or their family member is following me to my car, right? And they felt threatened. So what I want to share is our plan is to have multiple safety trainings and different avenues and to the topics that you're interested in and you feel like you need more support. This is just where we're starting because we have to meet these specific requirements. And so we're starting out with this National Institute for Occupational Safety training. We'll be emailing out a link for this training on Friday, this Friday the 24th, and you'll have about a month to get it done. So from now until May 31st. Along with this training, there will be a competency form that we'll send you that you will need to fill out that shows essentially that you completed the training and that also you've completed this meeting and training in reviewing our process. Okay. In addition to this, a legacy standard is now that all employees should go through Code Gray trainings, which is an offering through Legacy. And so we are going to sign each of you up for a training this calendar year at some point in 2026. We're going to be staggering that over the course of the next several months from a staffing perspective so that not everybody's taking the training on one day. So look out for your E+ and also for an email that will show one of your working days you'll be scheduled for Code Gray training in 2026. About that component. Okay. So part of the requirements also say that we quarterly need to basically look at any incidents in which there's been employee injury or assaults that have occurred and take that information to really drill down to determine what were the cause or causes of that event and the consequences of that event so that we can use that information to craft our annual personal safety trainings over time related to those factors. Essentially, so we can make sure that you all are staying as safe as possible and that you're being trained on the things that are occurring or have occurred in the last 5 years for teammates in terms of workplace violence. So safety checks. Another element of the rule is that staff have to have a way to send one-way or two-way messages in order to reach out for assistance if you need it, and or for check-in, safety check-ins. And so I know you all know what technology you have, but we're required to make sure you know how you can reach people. And so that's what this slide is all about. So teammates in the field, you're given laptop, cell phone, MiFi, right? You are able to connect to the internet out in the field, and via your phone, via your computer, you can reach out via Teams, email, case communication, text message from your phone, etc. There's multiple ways to get a hold of somebody if you were to need to do so. Patient identification. I'm sorry, y'all. I know you know this, but we're required to review this with you today, and that is making sure you know where to locate patient identifying information so that you can identify a patient correctly. So patient identifiers, name, date of birth, medical record number, address, phone number. So in remote client, face sheet at the top, you have your name, date of birth, MRN number. Looking down on the face sheet, you've got your address and phone number. We always want to use two identifiers when interacting with a new patient we've never met before. If that patient is in a facility and you've never seen them or met them before, even though the caregiver at the facility, they might give you some guff, really it's in your best interest to make sure that a team member from the facility leads you and shows you who the right patient is, especially in these environments where there's 4 people, 5 people to a room, right? You can use any of those on the last slide as one of your 2 identifiers. If you've seen a patient before, you can use facial recognition as one of your 2 identifiers. Moving on. So I think this is the biggest part that's new and different for our team. And so these standards in the Senate bill, what they are asking is that for hospice teams specifically, that we are activating a flagging system. So there's 2 elements of that. There is an electronic medical record flag, so something in our electronic health record environment, so AKA remote client, but also visual flags, so something that you can see at the patient's home or location that would indicate to you that there is a safety alert or a safety risk you should be aware of, okay? Part of this process also requires that we have a very designated steps of when would we initiate this flag? When would we continue a flag? When would we inactivate a flag? When would we reactivate a flag? All things flags, okay? Also, what do we do in terms of when we're interacting with a patient who does have one of these flags? So that's what this next section is about. So in phoning friends and talking to multiple team members and getting feedback from our most recent RN social services meetings, we really asked, what situations would you all want to see an actual flag on the patient's chart saying that there is a safety alert or a safety risk? This is the list y'all came up with, okay? So we would initiate flags under these situations or scenarios at the time of intake and any time during the patient's care or stay on hospice. So that's if there's active substance abuse in the home, if we know that the patient has a history of violence or that there's history of violence in that home setting, maybe it's with a family member who lives there. If the residence is in a high crime area, what we're basing that off of is based off your observations and or something that's being reported to us by the patient, family, caregiver, etc. If there's a risk of medication diversion in the home, or there's weapons present in the home. Now, weapons present, that's for new people. We don't know them quite well yet. We're assessing the scenario. We're seeing how things are going and making sure that they're securing weapons during our home visits, right? Or let's say it's a scenario where we know that they haven't. That would be a situation where we would have a flag. I would say in my experience, most of the time it's innocent. Maybe the family member likes to keep a pistol and a holster on their hip and forgot to put it away, right? If it is an egregious act, that's more of a situation where we're stopping home visits until we can make sure that they're on board and willing to adhere to our safety standards. This is our list. Now, what I'll say is this is our starting out list, right? This is new for us. And so in a few months' time, we can check in. Maybe we needed to add something to the list, take something away from the list. But this is where we're starting as far as what would initiate a flag. So any team member can reach out and should reach out. If you are aware of a safety concern issue situation, you should obviously make sure you distance yourself as needed and you're in a safe location, but then reach out for a case conference. Okay. As far as activating a flag in the chart or at the home, that can be done by a nurse, social worker, or chaplain. And we'll be talking about how you actually do that here pretty soon. We will then have a case conference before a flag is initiated because we want to chat as a team to make sure we're initiating a flag appropriately and that we are eliminating to the best of our ability any bias, because part of this is that we need to make sure we're reducing unconscious bias in this situation with this process and not disproportionately applying flags to certain groups of people, okay? So how do we initiate a flag? This should be viewable today, is what I'm told by IS. I apologize, I don't have a screenshot in this moment. It wasn't viewable when I checked this morning. But basically what you're going to see, so this is for nurses, social workers, chaplains. When you go to the safety section in remote client, there will be a new section located underneath this no home safety risk checkbox and above home safety risks that has these boxes. Okay. When you click one of those boxes, what's going to happen is that you're going to see this banner pop up in remote client. That is our new safety alert banner. Sorry to be skipping all around. IS are currently working on creating these same checkboxes in the hospice intake. So for our HCCs and intake nurses, more to follow. This should be available soon, but in the meantime, you'll have to open a case communication remote client to click one of those safety boxes as that applies. Again,
so Megan, am I
are
going to
instructions.
have access to that or no?
As far as the safety section,
Uh-huh.
so it's really a nurse, social worker, or chaplain that would be clicking the box to initiate it, but you'll be able to see that banner on the face sheet.
So if I have an incident with a volunteer, do I just send the message to the team and let them do that?
In terms of a safety concern?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Like one of my volunteers went and saw a patient in a facility and the patient threatened to stab him. So I pulled the volunteer out. Would I just report that to the team and have them mark
So
that box?
what I would say is any safety concern, because that's pretty serious, right? Is they made a threat, is immediately as soon as you know that, I would reach out to team lead so we can do a case conference.
Okay, sure.
Great question, and that's for anybody.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. So this is what the banner looks like. I think somebody had in one of our meetings said, can you make the banner blue? We tried the blue colors. It wasn't very apparent, this banner, so we went with flamingo pink. So we have a flamingo pink banner. That's what it will look like on the face sheet. So visual flags. So we also have to have something visual that staff can identify when you arrive to the patient's home to know as well that there is a safety alert or a safety risk. Okay. So visual flags, in talking to the team, majority wanted painted rocks. So we had talked about a lot of different options. We had talked about stickers. We had talked about having certain colored admission packets, putting something on the whiteboard we give to people on the refrigerator. But really the intent of this, I think, is that you see something actually before you enter the home that will alert you that there truly is a safety alert within that home setting. Many people might not want us to adhere something to their actual house. And so in discussion with the team, what we came up with was a painted rock that we put near the front door. So for consistency, we're going to put it on the ground, the porch, whatever, to the right side of their door. Facilities might not be too keen on us putting a rock on the floor. So for facility patients, we are going to use a pink sticker that we are adhering near the doorknob of the door to their room. So how in the world do we tell people, why are we putting this painted rock outside of your home? We had a lot of really great discussions with the team. And I think there's a lot of feedback about being just open, honest, transparent with patients and families of what we're doing, what this rock is all about. In conversations with the team, conversations with leadership team, I think where we're going to start is with these types of words that work. So if you're the person putting the rock or asking to put a rock outside their door, we're going to say, hey, we have some new safety requirements at the state level that all hospices have to follow right now to identify a patient's home. And these are visual identifiers that are going to benefit you. Make sure that our staff stay safe and are locating the correct home and ensuring that we provide prompt service. And we're going to leave it at that for now. Okay. What I will say, if you are the team member who's going out to do the home visit, when we've identified that we need to put a visual flag, it's your first time presenting this to a patient, reach out to a member of the leadership team. We can talk it through as far as how you present this. This is a very new process for us, okay? Let's say they're like, you can take your rock and let me tell you where you can put it. Okie dokie, no rock. If they truly are like, you can't put a rock, you can't put a sticker, no thank you, what you want to do is look for something visual that teammates would be able to clearly identify that this is the correct house, and you're going to detail that in the directions box. So they have a green door, they've got an Elvis garden gnome on their porch, whatever it might be, that team members can use visually to say, oh, yep, this is the correct home. So our process for continuing, inactivating, reactivating flags. Basically, it comes down to in each IDG, if someone has one of these safety alert banners or flags on their chart, we should talk about it each IDG meeting to see, do we still need this flag? Is this still a thing? Or is it okay to remove this flag and banner? Things are cool, things are safe, things are good. If we are talking about reactivating a flag, that's really a real-time thing. Sort of to your example, Lori, if something is happening safety-wise, a safety concern, that's an immediate case conference where we need to talk about our plan overall to keep the patient and family safe, to keep all of you safe, and do we need to initiate or reactivate a flag? So what do you do when you're interacting with a patient who has a flag? The long and the short of it is you keep providing the great care that you provide each and every day. Okay, so you're continuing to be compassionate, professional, respectful. We're upholding their rights and responsibilities. We're following our safety standards. As with any patient, whether they have a flag or not, you want to make sure you're reading the directions box. Before a visit, you're looking at the care plan, specifically the safety care plan for any precautions we're needing to take. Okay. What shouldn't we be doing? And this is directly from the Senate bill and the standard. We shouldn't be discriminating and not providing care and service to a person because they have a safety alert or a safety flag. Okay. So this wouldn't be a situation where we're denying service, making decisions about their care based off the fact that they have a safety flag. Okay. We're not restricting their access to their protected health information. We're not disclosing unneeded information to law enforcement. We're not withholding care. We're not punishing or penalizing the patient. So let's say they're aware of this flag situation and they request to have that removed from their electronic medical record or for the rocker sticker to be removed. That's really a case conference. Isn't appropriate for us to no longer have a flag for this patient. For ongoing assessments, as always, you're always looking for and assessing for patient family safety, caregiver safety, your safety. Okay. Again, immediate safety concerns, make sure you're in a safe place. If that means you need to leave the home environment, absolutely do so. Reach out, we'll case conference, we'll determine what to do next. Okay. And we're updating patient and family about changes to the plan of care as needed as far as different things we might need to do. For example, maybe we're always doing joint visits. Speaking of, part of this requirement, we want to make sure, and we are required to make sure you know, you can always ask for an escort, aka a joint visit. In any scenario, whether they have a safety flag or not, if you feel like you need someone to be with you for your safety to go into a home setting. You can make this request during a case conference. You can make this request directly to a team lead, a member of the leadership team. If it's after hours, you can reach out to the administrator on call. Lori.
So if the team decides to take alerts off or put alerts on, is there some way you're going to indicate that to everybody else? Because like, unless I physically go look in the chart, I don't always know. It's kind of the same thing with the precautions. Like, I don't know unless I go to the chart.
Yes.
And I don't go in the charts every day, right? So how am I going to get that information?
That's a great question, Lori. So how we're going to communicate this information is at any point if we're having a case conference about safety. Obviously, we're documenting our case conference, right? But that includes sending a case communication not just to the IDG team, but to the entire team, CHH Hospice team, so that everyone knows that there's a safety situation to be aware of. And to your point, Lori, so that you get that information to relay that to the volunteers. Whether it's we're initiating a flag, continuing a flag, inactivating, reactivating, all those things.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, of course. And I didn't put that in a slide, so I'll do that for our meeting for Friday. Part of these requirements also, we have to let you know that you have every right to complete documentation at a location that feels safe to you. AKA, you don't have to stay in the patient's home setting to complete your full note. I don't think anyone does that, but we're here to tell you, you don't have to do that. Is you are allowed to perform your documentation at a time and place outside of the home setting that feels safe and appropriate to you. And that's why you're given all the electronic equipment you're given in order to do that. Okay. Immediate safety risks. That's a different scenario, right? You show up, somebody's smoking, they've got their oxygen on. Someone's threatening you. You know that there's a weapon that's out and about. That's really where you need to get out of there. You need to get to a safe location. You distance yourself. You reach out to team lead, a manager, assistant manager, whoever's available. We talk about it. If there's an imminent risk for the patient harming themselves or others, we're going to call 911. Okay. If there are employee injuries, that's where we do need to enter an eye care. and more importantly, you would be seeking treatment for yourself. Okay. Just a reminder, we do have safety standards. This is a document on SharePoint that outlines things that you should do before a visit, before arriving to the home, and then during the visit, including situations where we would want you, and truly the expectation is that you immediately leave the home. Smoking with oxygen, a weapon is out and about, etc. Someone's ambulatory and agitated, those types of situations. If you haven't looked at this document in a while, please do so. This is our guide and another tool to make sure that you're all are staying as safe as possible. We had to update a policy to include all the stuff we just chatted about. And so that's policy 903-3301. On Friday, when we email out our competency forms for this meeting, the PowerPoint, etc., we will also include a draft of this policy. It hasn't been uploaded or approved yet, but at least you'll have the preliminary look at it before it posts on the main SharePoint site. There was an employee security policy that's going to be retired. That's 3303 because we've included all the information in this policy, 3301. And I'll be sending this along in the email on Friday. Please fill it out and attach it to an email, send it back to Christiane and me, or put it in one of our mailboxes. This is our way to show that we have had this chat together today and you are aware of our new safety requirements, processes, etc. That was a lot. Any questions? Okay. I'm sure questions will come up as we're going through this process together, team. So reach out anytime, and I'm going to hand things over to Christiana.
Okay, well, it is good to be back with you guys. I have been gone for about 3 months, and a lot of people that have stopped by the office have all wanted to see pictures of baby Emily. So I figured right now would be a great time to put some in, kind of get a good happy vibe going after listening to all the safety stuff that's going to be happening. So this is baby Emily, and she was born on 12/26, so she is not a Christmas baby. She gets 1 day after Christmas to have her birthday. So here she is for all of those who were wanting to see pictures.